everyone. Good morning. This is Teacher Priya giving a warm welcome to all the students of Commercial Applications and Commercial Studies Standard 9. Kids, we have already discussed about the nature of business before. Now we are going to learn about the various forms of organization. In this session, I am going to talk to you about various forms of organization. Now let us recap, or let us just run through what we have learned earlier. Organization. So there is a difference between organization, firm and a company. We know that, right? Organizations are a group of people, or it is an association of people who come together for a common purpose. And organizations can be a profit-making organization, or it can be a non-profit-making organizations. In other words, commercial, non-commercial. Organizations have an authority, okay, who plan things. Or we can say that these people in authority, they are the policy makers. They plan or they carry out all the 5 functions of management. They are also delegating authority, responsibility and duties to various people who are working under them, or they are called as subordinates. So subordinates are delegated their authority and responsibility, and tasks are also assigned to them, which are then coordinated in order to achieve the ultimate goal, which is profit. Okay, so this is all about organizations. In organizations you have a chain of command, there is a hierarchy. Okay, every organization differs from the other on the basis of the size. There are some large scale organizations, some are small organizations. Okay, then organizations also differ from one another on the basis of formalities of incorporation. When some of them have to follow a very tedious procedures in order to come into being, whereas some can be easily formed. There is a hierarchy, there is complexity. Okay, hierarchy is the organization structure. It is, it is basically the superior subordinate relationship. So in an organization, we have vertical relations as well as the horizontal relations. The relationship between marketing manager and the finance manager, that is horizontal, because they are holding the same positions. They are holding the same rank, I would say. But the relationship between a marketing personnel, a personnel working in the marketing department with the marketing manager, that is a vertical relationship. So organizations can be further classified into firms. Okay, they can be either firms or they can be either companies. So firms are what? Firms are actually an institutionalized arrangement to conduct some or the other kind of business. Whereas companies, again, an association of people who come together, they pull in all their resources and they contribute towards a common stock in order to conduct business. I hope all of you remember what you mean by common stock. I gave you an example of a pizza. Okay, if I am buying a pizza which is costing me 1,000 rupees and I have divided it into parts. Okay, I divide it into 10 parts, I share it with you each. So 10 different people, 9 different people, one for me. Okay, and I am telling you that if you want your share of pizza, you have to pay me 100 rupees. So that entire pizza is like a common stock which is divided into shares having a nominal value. Okay. So that's exactly what happens in a company. So people are contributing, they are purchasing shares. Okay, and they are making valuable contribution towards the common stock. So this is the difference between a firm. Firm may be registered firm or it can be an unregistered firm. Okay, whereas companies, they have certain features, like they are considered, considered as or regarded as an artificial person. They have an entity of their own, like firms don't have an entity of their own. Like if at all, I own a boutique of mine, okay, and my boutique will definitely have a name. But people will recognize it more as my boutique, isn't it? Okay, so as far as firms are concerned, they do not have separate entities, whereas companies have a separate entity, they have an identity of their own. Okay, and to form a company is a very, very tedious process. Okay, and then companies exist for a longer period of time, perpetual succession. Shareholders are people who contribute towards the common stock. They buy shares of the companies. And these shares are transferable. Okay? If I have my share of pizza, and if I feel that the cheese is too much, it is fattening. Okay? And I am a little diet conscious, and I would like to give it to my friend. But I tell him, you take it, but pay me the money, because I have spent. That's exactly what happens with shares. Shares are transferable. You can buy shares. You can sell shares. So, shareholders, if at all I am holding the shares of a company, and if I am caught up in a crisis, I need money urgently, I can sell the shares to anyone who is willing to purchase the shares of that company. He wants to invest in that company. So shares are transferable in nature. That is why shareholders may come and they may go, but the company will continue to exist until the management decides to wind up the operations. And common seal, just like natural people like you and me, whenever we have to confirm our interest in a particular document, we sign on that. We put our signature. In the same way, since company has a separate entity of itself, they have a common seal. So all the documents are, all the documents, important documents, bear the common seal of the company. So these are some of the important features of a company. So firm and company are organizations. Okay, organizations can be profit-making organizations, they can be non-profit-making organizations. Okay, now organizations can also be categorized on sector basis. So we have the private sector, we have the public sector. Private sector are those organizations owned by individuals. So examples I would cite is Reliance or Dabur, Britannia. Okay, these are organizations, these are companies that are they belong to the private sector. Whereas government-owned departments, anything which is any department or any board, like a board or any enterprise, which is under government control, owned by the government, that is known as the public sector organizations. Okay. Now today we are going to talk about the private sector organizations here, which are further bifurcated under two categories. We have the corporate and we have the non-corporate forms of organizations. Private sector. Okay. Now non-corporate. What do you mean by corporate and non-corporate? The difference between the two is that corporate forms of organizations have an identity of their own. Okay, a company for that matter is a corporate form of organization because management is separated by from ownership. In the case of a company, a joint stock company, shareholders are the owners, okay, whereas the managers are the board of directors. Okay, they look after the state of affairs of the company and they are accountable. Board of directors are accountable to the shareholders because they are using the money of the shareholders. Okay, so remember that corporate organizations are those where management and ownership are separated from one another, whereas non-corporate are those where management and ownership are not separated from one another. They are basically firms having, which do not have legal entity of their own, identity of their own. So under the non-corporate form, we can include the sole proprietorship, okay, and we can include partnership firms. So these are basically firms. They are institutionalized arrangements to conduct some or the other type of business. And under your corporate forms of organization, organizations in the private sector, okay, in the private sector, we have the joint stock companies and the cooperative societies. So today we are going to discuss about sole proprietorship. So today we will start with sole proprietorship. So we discussed about corporate and non-corporate forms of organization. So first we talk about the non-corporate forms of organization, sole proprietorship and partnership. So today's session will be held on sole proprietorship. So what do you understand by sole proprietor or sole trade? Now, sole trade is basically, sole trade is a type of business unit where one person is solely responsible for providing the capital, for bearing the risk of enterprise and for the management of business. Now all the shops that we see in our locality in Margao market, they are owned by an individual. That individual, he has taken all the efforts to arrange for finance, okay, to set up that business, to run the business, and if at all his business is successful today, if it is making a profit for him, then it is the reward for all his hardships. So whether it is the meat seller in SPDA market, okay, or whether it is whether it is an ice cream parlor, okay, or a beauty salon, whatever it may be, okay, these are all sole proprietorships. So let us analyze the definition here. It is a type of business unit where one person is solely responsible for providing the capital. What do you mean by providing capital? Raising funds. Without corpus, without money, nothing is possible. Business is simply unimaginable without adequate supply of money, or adequate supply of funds. So sole proprietor, if at all I want to set up my own venture, I will have to arrange for funds. Okay, now these funds I can just, to raise these funds I can utilize my personal savings, or else I can borrow some money from my friends or from my family members, or the last resort is the bank. I can apply for a loan with a bank and arrange for the funds to start my business. Providing for bearing the risk of enterprise and for the management of business. Yes, they are entrepreneurs. Sole proprietors are businessmen. They are entrepreneurs. They are bearing the risk of enterprise in the sense that there are so many risks, man-made risks as well as natural risks. They try to face this risk. And the reward for that is profit. All the hardships, all the efforts they put in, that is, an incentive for that, a reward for that is profit. They manage the business single-handedly. Okay, this is one of the best characteristic of sole proprietorship. Let us just focus on the features of sole proprietorship. Okay, I have just given you a blur idea of what sole proprietorship is all about. Sole proprietors arrange for funds. Okay, they are the sole. They are supposed to manage or run the business all by themselves. Okay, and they have to bear the risk of enterprise. Now here are the features of sole proprietorship. Single ownership. This is the best form of organization for people who like to be their own bosses, who do not wish to take commands from others. So you are your own boss. So that is single ownership. This form of organization does not have a separate entity. I already told you. Corporate firms like joint stock companies, cooperative societies, they have their own identities. They are regarded as an artificial person by law. But in the case of a sole proprietor, there is no law as such. Sole proprietorship is only subjected to general laws of the country, and there is no law saying or granting it a separate entity of its own. Identity of the firm and that of the proprietor is running the same. So if at all I am running a boutique, although my firm will have a name, it will bear a name, people will recognize it as Priya's Boutique. So no separate entity. Capital, yes, I have already told you how sole proprietors generally arrange for funds. They can depend on their savings, they can borrow from their friends and family, they can also raise a loan from the bank. So in this way, they can raise sufficient money required to commence their business and to run the business. Now formation, as far as formation of a sole proprietorship is concerned, it is the most simplest of all. Even Kimball & Kimball has defined it as one of the most simple and the most natural forms of organization. You do not have, you don't require to go through a tedious procedure. It's very simple. If you want to start a business, you have to first obtain a license from the local self bodies and also a no objection certificate from the department concerned. For example, if I want to set up my own bakery or a confectionery shop, I will have to obtain a license from the food department. Okay, from the concerned, even from the concerned local self body. So permissions are required from the concerned authorities in order to commence your business. Now, sole proprietors are risk bearers. Because they are managing the entire business all by themselves, okay, they are bearing a lot of risk. They are risk bearers. Okay, this risk could be man-made or it could be even natural. Okay, and for bearing this risk of enterprise, they are receiving a reward which is known as a profit. Yeah, so let us continue with the next feature of sole proprietorship, which is unlimited liability. Okay, liability is an obligation to repay your debts. Now, if the assets of the sole proprietor, business assets of the sole proprietor does not suffice to meet the debts of the sole proprietorship firm, then his personal assets are also attached. Okay, now let me explain this to you. Now, sole proprietors borrow money from the banks. With that money, they will buy an office or a shop and buy everything, everything that they require to run their business. Now, if at all the business has been incurring a loss, okay, that means the firm will have no money to repay the funds, okay, to repay the loan to the bank. So in this kind of a precarious situation, when the business assets or the business possessions, owned possessions of the proprietor, when they are not enough to meet this liability or the debt, okay, which he has raised from the bank, then his personal assets like his house or his car, then the jewelry, bank can impound it or attach it. So that is called as the unlimited liability. That means it is not only his business assets that are at stake, but even his personal assets are at stake as far as repayment of liabilities are concerned. Now, for management and control, he is the sole owner. He controls the whole business. He manages the whole business single-handedly, but he can always seek support and help from his family members. Okay, he can also employ workers, but the final decision, the decision-making interest is vested in him. He is the sole decision maker. So this is how he manages and controls the business and continuity. Okay, the sole proprietorship firms, their continuity is always in jeopardy because it depends on it depends on person to person. If the sole proprietor's children are not willing to continue, the business, then it will come to a grinding halt. Okay, so sole proprietorships usually, they usually face a lot of difficulty as far as continuity is concerned. Now let us talk about the merits of sole proprietorship. Okay, let us talk about the merits of sole proprietorship. A's of formation and closure. He is the sole owner. He does not have to seek what shall I say? He does not have to seek anybody's opinion. He does not have to consult anybody. Okay, so whenever he wants to start, he or she wants to start the business, they can do so. If they don't want to continue it, they can close up. So it is the sole proprietor's decision whether to continue the business or to discontinue it. There is a lot of flexibility. You can, sole proprietor can introduce lot of changes in the way the firm is performing. So it is more this form of organization is more flexible in nature. There is no rigidity as such. He is the sole policy maker. He is the sole decision maker. So he can, implement his decisions as per his likes and dislikes. Then quick decisions. Yes, when you are all alone, when you don't depend on others for arriving at a consensus, decision making becomes very easy. He does not have to consult too many people. Yes, of course, advices have to be taken. You have to discuss the issues with people who are experienced. But the ultimate decision making power is vested in the sole proprietor. Then secrecy of information. There is a lot of room for secrecy. He need not disclose the performance of his business with anybody else. There is no such law that governs the sole proprietorship. So, the law does not say that sole proprietors must publish their accounts. So he can always keep back a profound secret. He need not discuss it with anybody else. So secrecy of information is possible. There is direct incentive. It is you work hard and you earn your profits. So that is the direct incentive. A sense of accomplishment. Okay, you feel very accomplished when your profits are maximizing, when your business is growing, people are appreciating your work. The sole proprietor achieves a sense of accomplishment. You feel fulfilled. And there is a lot of personal touch. Because this form of organization is operating on a very small scale. A sole proprietor, whether it is a manufacturing unit or whether it is a trading unit, sole proprietor can establish personalized relationship with his workers. Okay, and not only with his workers but also with the customers. You can take an example of the stores, provision stores in your own locality. The shopkeeper may be a good friend of yours. He will keep informing you about the new chocolates or the new flavors of ice creams that are available at his store. Isn't it? Okay, so that is personalized touch with the customers. There is low overhead cost. Overhead costs are the indirect cost. So, for a sole proprietor, now yes, if at all it is, if at all you are setting up a restaurant, in that case your overhead cost, you have to create an ambience, so that for that you require an interior decor, a proper interior decor, very attractive decor, and there are all the other necessities that you have to meet, that illumination and all that. So in that case, if at all you want a very extravagant ambience, then you have to shell out money. But generally, if you just want to cater to the society, okay, like home bakers for that matter, okay, or anyone or any person who's very creative, you don't require, if you have the skill, if you have the knowledge, you can even work from home. You don't require premises, you don't require to put up a great setup. Okay, so that is why the overhead cost, the indirect cost, is very, very low in the case of sole proprietorship. Then minimum government regulations. I told you there is no such law. Okay, there is no such law to which sole proprietor is subjected to. They are subjected to general laws of the country. Government also does not interfere too much. Only government has set up certain norms for the sole proprietors which they have to adhere to. They have to obtain a license before they start their business, to be on a safer side. Okay? A no objection certificate has to be acquired from the concerned department. Okay? Even from the local cell body. So the basic requirements, okay, basic regulations are imposed on the sole proprietorship here. And of course, it is of great social importance because sole proprietors are helping to generate employment for others by self-employing themselves. Government of India today is promoting entrepreneurship. Okay, government is now, whether the state government or the central government, entrepreneurship is always promoted. It is self-employ yourself and generate employment for people who are unskilled or semi-skilled. So these are the merits of sole proprietorship. So we have already discussed the writer side. Okay, now let us have a look at the demerits before we talk about the social desirability. Okay, now demerits of a sole proprietorship firm is limited capital. Limited capital, unlimited liability, limited managerial ability. These are actually hampering the progress of sole proprietorships. Okay, limited capital because limited capital. The sole proprietor usually faces a paucity of capital. How much of loan is he going to borrow from the bank? How much will his friends and family help him financially? Sometimes he may not have too much of savings on which he can bank on. So in this kind of situation, even if he is willing to expand his business, he cannot do so. Okay. So limited capital is one of the biggest boulder in the pathway of sole proprietor. Unlimited liability. I have already told you what do you mean by unlimited liability. If the business assets do not suffice to meet the obligations or debts, then even the private assets or personal assets of the proprietor are at stake. So, knowing that his liability is unlimited, proprietors may, they may think twice. They may think twice before jumping to conclusions or before making a reckless decision. So this can also hamper the growth and expansion of the business. Limited managerial ability. How much can a person handle single-handedly? He may employ people, he may have workers to help him, but the decision-making power is with him. Now even if he has expanded, like for example, a person is running an ice cream parlor here in Margao. There is an ice cream parlor. Okay, he has also set up an ice cream parlor in Panjim, in Vasco, Ponda. One single person. Do you think he will be able to manage so many businesses? He will definitely appoint managers. But how much can you rely or how much can you trust your employees? So that is the question. Sometimes owing to this limited managerial ability, they have to close down businesses also. So if the person feels that it is not possible for me to personally visit the ice cream parlor based in Panjim or based in Vasco, I can only give time to this ice cream parlor here in Margao. Okay, at the most I can visit Ponda. So then the only decision before him is close down the parlors at Vasco and Panjim. Okay. Now uncertain life. I told you continuity. When I was just talking to you about the features. Okay, continuity of a sole proprietorship firm is pretty unstable. You don't a proprietor does not know what can happen. The death of the proprietor, his insolvency, his lunacy, if at all he is not mentally sick. Okay, that can bring the business to a grinding halt. Even if his kids do not want to take over, then he has to wind up his business. So there are so many challenges. If he is not able to meet those challenges, he will have to discontinue his business. Sometimes unsound business decisions can also hamper his business operations. He can actually face the music, or rather I would say he can incur heavy losses. Okay, he can incur heavy losses because of his reckless and unsound business decisions and non-availability of economies of large scale. When production and trade is undertaken on a very large scale, you can economize. That is, you can save more money. Okay, you can make goods available over a wider market at a lesser price. So that is called as economies of scale. That is, more the production and more the distribution, more you can economize on your expenses. But when you are dealing in, when your dealings are very small, you are operating on a very small scale, you do not get the benefit of economizing economizing. You cannot. You have to incur a cost. So these are some of the demerits of sole proprietorship. Now let us talk about the social desirability or importance. Why is it so important? Self-employment, as I have already spoken to you, it gives everyone a chance to be your own boss. There's a picture also that says, yes, I am the boss. I don't have to take commands from others, rather I will give orders. You are also generating employment to many unskilled or semi-skilled or even skilled workers. Because if you set up an industrial unit, you require unskilled workers. At the same time, you require supervisors, you require a manager to take care of the day-to-day activities. So that manager has to be educated. Okay, that's the mental labor. Okay, so you are generating employment for others. Diffusion of business ownership. Okay, so it is like there is no concentration of wealth in the hands of you. People cannot monopolize. Here, a person who has the ability to start his own business, he has got the zeal and enthusiasm, and also the spirit of that enterprising spirit to plunge into business. He can set up his own business. So that is the diffusion of that. That means every person who is quite capable to run a business, he can do so. It is not the business is not the monopoly of a handful of people. Okay, so that is what we mean diffusion of business ownership and decentralizes economic development. We know that large-scale industries are imperative for economic development, but all these small businesses, okay, whether it is your small-scale industries run by sole proprietors or even cottage industries run by sole proprietors or family businesses, they are also contributing towards the national income, thus helping the economy to grow, okay, and develop economically. So these points bring out the importance or the social desirability of sole proprietors. Now let us talk about the suitability of sole proprietors. What are the circumstances under which this form of organization is most suitable? Here we have the points. When you want to cater to the local market. If you are baking, if you are a home baker, you can cater to the local market. If I am a home baker, I can make my goods available in the place or in the area where I am residing. Okay, so whenever a person wants to cater or offer his services to the local market, he can go for sole proprietorship. It's the most suitable one. Wherever personal attention is required, beauty salons, jewelry, fashion design, these are areas where you need to give personal attention to your consumers. So for these kind of professions, sole proprietorship is the best form of organization. Change in fashion, especially the garments, fashion design, jewelry, okay, wherever, all these areas of work that come under the influence of change in fashion. Fashion keeps on changing, and you have to accordingly, you have to keep this, changing your this also. Okay, you also have to keep, you also have to change it. Okay, so when you have to meet the changes, okay, or flow with the tandem of time, this is the best form of organization. Then limited capital and more personal skills. Yes. Very little funds, but more skills. If you are a very creative person, okay, if you have some skills like that is why I would say, confectionaries, then jewelry design. If you are a professional like an architect, okay. So these kind of people, wherever personal skills where you can use your personal skills, sole proprietorship is a best form. Quick decisions, because you are all alone, you don't have to depend on anybody. You can make your quick decisions. So sole proprietorship are the best. And risk involved is negligible. So these are the points which bring out the suitability of proprietorship. So you have whenever, so let me just run through. If the person wants to cater to the local market, so we have all the shops in Margao, okay, the provision, Gorkha superstores, then you have Malakar, then Bagde's Bazaar. These are all superstores where provisions or groceries are available. So they are catering to our needs. Then you have your beauty salons. Okay, there are jewelers in the market, there are toy shops in the market, there are meat sellers, there are vegetable sellers. So these are all your sole proprietors, and they have set up this business because they are interested in catering to the needs of the local market. Then, personal attention. Like we have tailoring business here in Margao, where there are beauty salons in here. Okay, so wherever any business where personal attention or personal skill is required, these are the best forms. Quick decisions and risk involved is negligible. Risk involved is negligible. So these points explain the suitability of your proprietorship. Now there are pictures given here in the slide. You can identify the various forms, various professions, okay, for which sole proprietorship or sole trade is most ideal. So here we come to an end of this session. Thank you for patient listening.